We're back for another part of our series that we're calling Money Mondays. We're trying to bring you helpful biblical wisdom and counsel as we all ask questions and try to live life under the weight and also the blessing that money can be as God uses that tool in our life. Joined by Jared Nelson, who's over 20 years as a financial advisor to help people just like you and people in our church as we ask questions and try to make wise decisions regarding money. Today I want to try to tackle, Jared, money in different stages of life. We all have different chapters and seasons of life. And so let's talk about this one first. What are some things that maybe a young couple should think about? Maybe they're engaged, they're thinking about getting engaged and getting married. What are things that you counsel and advise people to think through financially when they think about marriage?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the reality is, after doing this for so long, most folks don't talk about money before they get married. They talk about almost everything else, but that topic just doesn't come up, not in depth anyway. And so I think it's hugely important to discuss money type topics before you get married. I think it's about expectations. I've heard we marry three different people. We marry who we think we're marrying. We marry who we think we marry, we actually marry, and then we also marry who they become because they're married to us. And so I think the things like tithing, just having that conversation, hey, what's your belief on tithing? What's your belief on debt? Do you have debt? A lot of folks get married and they don't know the spouse has debt. I wouldn't run a credit report on somebody to have a date with them, but getting a free credit report, the government passed this law a few years ago where you can get one from each of the three credit bureaus once a year. I would have those conversations, and if a potential future spouse is hesitant to have those conversations, that would definitely be a red flag. But just what are their thoughts on debt? Is debt okay? Do they not like debt? Savings, paying for college for the kids. Again, there's going to be differing views there. I think it comes down to values. But having open conversations with somebody that you're thinking about marrying. The number one cause of stress and fights in marriage is money. And so if you can head that off a lot ahead of time by having the right expectations, by knowing kind of where you're at and where they're at, what page everybody's on, I think that will cut down on a lot of the stress after somebody gets married.
Yeah, great counsel. If the two are going to become one, they really need to know who they are marrying into. Yeah. And some of that may be a question regarding how do you advise folks as far as having separate accounts or joint accounts? What does that look like as you counsel folks?
Yeah, for me it would be a red flag if somebody wants to have a separate hidden account. But if it's, as long as, hey, I've got a spending account, she has a spending account, and everything's above board, everything's out there, it's not his money and her money, it's our money. I think the number of accounts won't matter. I think it's more the overall, it's our money and we're making joint decisions. Now, on that same note, I think that there needs to be balance because in a lot of relationships, one person's a spender and one person's a, saver. And so if the spender wants to spend, I think it's healthy to have a certain amount of money depending on their budget. It might be $100, $200, whatever it is, that they can use and spend and not have to report back. There's no guilt. There's no, any kind of interrogation on it. And that kind of takes it out of the budget that is part of the budget. And that can cut down on it. But I think as long as it's our money, we're making joint decisions, not his money, not her money, then it's healthy.
Yeah. No, as we kind of think through stages of life today in this part of our series, one of the next things that then can kind of happen progression is kids come into the picture. And so I know a lot of people today have small kids or maybe have teenagers. And I think one of the greatest gifts that we can give our kids is to teach them a great foundation about how to wisely handle money. And that starts at even a really young age. So talk to us a little bit about what does it look like for those who are parents out there to teach their kids about wise financial.
Yeah, I think the first thing when you're teaching your kids is as parents, I've got three. I've got an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old right now. And I think we've got to set a good example. I think we've got to be open about money. We've got to talk about money. I think talking about debt, how this vehicle we're riding in today is paid off. And most people, it's not paid off. And kind of having those conversations. I'm having conversations with mine right now, and it's amazing how young kids can grasp stuff. Talk to them about savings. I show them, mutual funds and retirement accounts. I teach them about college savings. All those kind of lessons that I feel like they are catching more than we're teaching. They're watching us and kind of repeating what we do. And I do believe that generationally we can pass down this knowledge, or we can pass down bad example. One example of one thing that we do with our kids when they turn 5 is we get them this thing called a green light card. And it's a little prepaid debit card. It's got their picture on it. It's a MasterCard. The only disadvantage I can find of it, it costs $5 a month, for the account, but it allows us to put money on there for the child. The child has their picture on the little card. It's got a little chip on it. They have a little PIN number they have to remember. And what that's done for us is it's helped teach all kind of lessons that we didn't realize it would teach. I know even when my son was, 5, 6 years old, he would help me pick up sticks in the yard, and I'd pay him $4. We pay our kids for grades. Again, there's different philosophies on that, but like if they get a certain grade, I might give them $1. If it's a lower grade, 75 cents. But they're working hard and earning money, kind of lessons they need to learn for life. In the summer, there's books my son has to read, so I'll pay him $1 for each book he reads. Just lessons like that if you work hard, you earn money. And then what we do is we take that money, and there's 3 different accounts on this Greenlight card. There's a give account, a spend account, and a save account. And the save account, I can set the own interest, and I've got it set real high so that if they leave their $100 in there for a month, at the end of the month, they get accrued interest on that paid from the parent's account. But again, it's teaching them, don't spend all your money, leave some there, you'll earn something. As they get older, I'll lower that interest rate down, make it more realistic, kind of more real world standards. But the spend one has been very valuable for us because he'll have $100 on his spend account, and we'll be at the store, and he'll ask, hey, can I buy this? And I'll say, well, sure, if you want to, but you're buying it. And he'll look at the price, and it's like, $8 for that? And he'll put it back. And that was at 6 years old. And they're already making decisions because they know they're starting to, in their head, look at, okay, it took me that long to pick up sticks to earn $4. There's no way I'm going to throw away $8 on that. And so it cut way down on the begging. It cut way down on their spending habits. And so now my 5-year-old daughter, she's already saving up money. She earns it. And we're not teaching her how much she has to save yet. But if she earns $10 in a week, about 9 of it's going into the savings and 1 is being spent on something. And so she's saving 90% of her income right now, which is great as they learn that stuff early on.
Yeah. I don't think it's ever too early to start that foundation and teaching our kids. Fast forwarding life a little bit, for some of our audience, maybe they're asking this question or thinking about this. How do I afford to retire? Can I ever retire? Yeah,
that's a great question. And so, you definitely have to save to retire. The single best place for most folks to save is if they have a job with what's called a matching retirement plan. Most folks do. If you work for the state of Mississippi, it's automatic. It's called PERS. But at other companies, it's a 403B or a 401k. And a lot of them match, meaning that if you put money in there, 5%, 4%, they'll put money in there to match that. So it's an instant, in a lot of cases, 100% return on your money. And so I think there's several parts to that. One is, if you have that type plan, putting in up to the match to get their matches. Dave Ramsey talks about getting to a point where you can save 15% of your income for retirement, for long term, so you have some money saved up. So I think that's a good rule of thumb. If I'm saving 5%, how can I get that up? Maybe it's lowering expenses. Maybe it's a combination of once my income goes up, we don't put all that back into our budget. We save some more of that. But that's the first thing. I think the second part of it is you've got to know how to allocate it. And that's something, a lot of the stuff is just not taught in school. There's not any formal education on what a mutual fund is, how to allocate it, how to pick the growth funds. And so I think seeking wise counsel, somebody in your church that knows this stuff, a financial coach, somebody that can walk you through, have a really 10-minute conversation on how a mutual fund works, how it works inside of a 401k, which ones to pick. In every one I've looked at the last 20 years, every retirement plan, there's always 4 or 5 good options in there that get a great rate of return. And when you get compound interest working for you, very few people make a high enough income to save every single dollar for retirement. But if you get the dollars you saved earning money, getting the matches and earning interest, now you can have enough. And I mean, even somebody saving, from early, say age 30 to 65, in Mississippi, the average tax refund last year was around $3,000. Even if somebody just saved their tax refund, which we know most people don't, they blow it, but even if they just saved that over a 35-year period, they'd have over $1 million saved up if they do it the right way. And that's even without a matching retirement plan. They could put it into what's called a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. And again, there's some moving parts there, but it's pretty simple. It's mutual funds inside a retirement plan. If you've got a matching one, that's the way to do it. If not, open up a Roth or a traditional and get with a financial coach that can teach you the basics of how that works. 10-minute conversation, and that puts people on track to be able to retire.
Well, great wisdom, and it's taking the right steps along the way to prepare for the future. But a lot of times when we blow that refund, we don't realize what that could mean for our future had we chosen to save that.
Right.
Great insight, Jared. Hey, if you've got money questions, we realize that you probably do, man, we want to help you connect with a financial advisor, also to be able to resource you with some free financial resources. So if you have questions, text the word money, M-O-N-E-Y, to 601-397-6111, and we'd love to connect with you to help set you up with helpful people and also helpful resources here in our Money Monday series. We've got a couple more parts we want to tackle, talking about making wise purchasing decisions for different purchases in life. And then finally, in our final part of our series, we'll talk about how do we live a generous life. Thanks again for joining us for our Money Monday series.